Genshin Impact has been a hit ever since it launched, largely because it happily caters to players who enjoy a variety of genres, from casual mobile games to grind-heavy RPGs. Live games that continue receiving significant updates and new content throughout their life cycle tend to end up as total time sinks for avid gamers, and the free-to-play aspect of Genshin Impact only amplifies the accessibility and appeal. But even the most dedicated Genshin fans can grow bored of waiting for resin to recharge or be tempted to try new games. Genshin immediately brings to mind visions of gacha, anime, and open-world fantasy games. However, these components don't necessarily need to be rolled into one product. After all, Genshin-adjacent games aren't exactly the same as Genshin, and they still manage to generate healthy fan bases. If you enjoy Genshin Impact, but just need a bit of a break, then you might want to give these games a try. Honkai Impact 3rd. Honkai Impact 3rd, another miHoYo gacha game starring cute anime girls, hits a lot of the same bases as Genshin Impact. Fans of the game should recognize the similarities between the two with the gacha mechanic, combat, and overall visual aesthetic. Despite the title, it's not actually the third of any series. The name comes from the fact that the game takes place after the third Honkai eruption, a significant event in the game's history. miHoYo actually plans on connecting the two games in a crossover event to feed into the fanfare even more. Characters from Genshin like Keqing, Fiskal, and Paimon will appear in the game during the crossover. So, if you're a Genshin fan who's ever wondered about Honkai, that event might be the time to give it a try. According to DualShockers, miHoYo already launched the Chinese version of the event on June 10, 2021. However, the company hasn't revealed an exact date for the global editions. Interested players can download Honkai Impact on Android, iOS, and Windows devices for free. Unfortunately, it isn't console compatible at this time. Phantasy Star Online 2. Phantasy Star Online 2 may strike some as being rather similar to Genshin Impact in tone and presentation, but it's more of an MMO than an RPG. Players praise the combat and progression system, which don't rely on the same limiting mechanics that frustrate some free-to-play gamers in title like Genshin. PSO2 has a gacha system that solely applies to cosmetics. It isn't like a typical gacha game where players have to roll for the playable characters themselves. Plus, players can buy the items they didn't get from gacha in the marketplace with in-game currency, as well as sell the items they don't want and search for the items they do. Overall, unlike with Genshin Impact, there's less incentive to spend real money on the game. Some players who play both games have praised Genshin for better graphics, music, and exploration, but that doesn't mean that PSO2 doesn't offer plenty of those elements as well. Like Genshin, PSO2 is highly accessible. The game is currently available for PC, PlayStation Vita, PlayStation 4, Xbox One, Xbox Series X, S, and Nintendo Switch. Surprisingly, it hasn't been confirmed for a PlayStation 5 or mobile release. Even so, if you're looking for a title with a similar vibe and a more forgiving gacha system, this might be the game for you. Final Fantasy Brave Exvius. Genshin Impact fans might also a number of entries in Square Enix's Final Fantasy franchise. While most FF games play like traditional party-building JRPGs, the series isn't limited to them. If players don't have access to console releases, they can try one of the series' many existing and upcoming mobile games. Final Fantasy Brave Exvius, a free-to-play mobile game, most resembles Genshin with its gacha setup. Of course, other FF games better emulate the open-world RPG element. However, the Brave Exvius gacha mechanic serves up a bevy of attractive anime characters that should please fans arguably as well as Genshin characters can. Players can also build parties with a variety of these characters, based on specializations in different elements and weapons. How players develop these parties will determine how well they fare against bosses and other challenges. Other honorable mentions for curious FF newcomers include Final Fantasy VII Remake and Final Fantasy XIV. FF7 is a critically acclaimed JRPG based on the original title published in 1997. However, it's a console exclusive, so you would need the console plus the game. FF14 requires an online subscription, but interested parties can download and play most of the base game story through a free trial. The Legend of Zelda: Breath of the Wild. The early days of Genshin Impact were filled with reviewers and gamers calling it a Breath of the Wild clone. Many of the mechanics, including the sheer cold status introduced in the Dragonspine map, seem to take inspiration from the Zelda open-world game. However, the two games don't exactly offer the same experience. If you haven't played BOTW, you might want to check it out. You may enjoy the similar aesthetics and reminiscent gameplay. Breath of the Wild stars iconic mute protagonist Link on his quest to save Princess Zelda from the clutches of Calamity Ganon. Fans of the series already know that this is the bajillionth time this has happened in the Zelda timeline, only in a different generation and under different circumstances. Some of the differences between Genshin and BOTW include its unique storyline, characters, and combat system. The fact that BOTW isn't a gacha game will probably be enough to entice an entirely different demographic in and of itself. Sadly, BOTW isn't a free-to-play experience, unlike Genshin Impact. However, if you already have a Nintendo Switch and don't mind paying for the game, it's definitely worth a try. After all, some have called it the best open-world game ever.